Hey guys, how are you? Welcome to a new video of music class with Miguel. Okay, I just want to say first of all, last week I didn't receive all your tasks, so please be sure to make them. Since this was the first task I was asking of you, I'm gonna give you a chance until today, so you can turn it in. Okay, so be sure to make. Okay, from next task on, I will not accept uh, late assignments. Okay, late submissions. So be sure to make all your tasks on the due date. Okay, so last week, if you remember, we learned about the notes and figures. Okay, it was a review of the notes, figures. As you remember, we saw the whole note, we saw the half note, the quarter note, and the eighth note with their respective rests and their values. Okay, so now that we can move to another part of the review because we have still to review some other things. Today we will review names on lines of and spaces in the treble clef. Okay, so you should know them by now already, but since this is a review, it's just so that you can remember all of them and be sure that you are all on the same page. Okay, so let's see the first one. Okay, as you know, the normal alphabet, the one you use to read or write, goes from A to Z. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Okay, those are 20 something letters. Okay, but in the musical alphabet, we only have 7 of those letters from A to G. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then we go back to A, B, C, D, E, F, G, etc., etc. Okay? Now that we know that, we can go to the staff. As you remember, the staff right here is this little symbol that has 5 lines and 4 spaces. Okay? And as you know, the staff, or as it is called in Spanish, pentagrama, it's the symbol where we put all the notes on the staff. Okay? All the notes that we are all going to play, read, or perform are going to be written on a staff. If they are not written on a staff, we cannot play them. A whole note is just a whole note, but once we put the whole note on the staff, it will have a different name. It could be an A note, it could be a G note, it could be an F note, it could be a B note. Okay? So we need the staff to be able to read and play music. And we have the treble clef notes. Okay, so the treble clef is the symbol right here. It's like a doodle. And how do you draw the treble clef? You simply like start right here near the second line of the staff. Then you go up and round, go down, then round again. You go up, then you make a turn, and you make a straight line all the way down with a little tail. Okay. At the beginning, it's not so easy for people to do it correctly, but the more you do it, the better you're gonna get at it. Okay. So that is a treble clef. Now, when we have the treble clef, that will mean that the lines and spaces are going to have specific names. So if you see right here, the first line is going to be the note E, the first space is F, second line is G, second space is A, third line is B, third space is C, fourth line is D, fourth space E, and the fifth line is F. Okay, if you see, it all follows the same order of the alphabet. So if you begin with E, then the note after E is going to be F in the alphabet, and the note after F is going to be G in the alphabet. Since G is the last letter of the alphabet we use in music, then the next note is going to be an A. And then we go like from there, A, B, C, D, E, and F. Okay, but we can divide it also into lines and then spaces. Okay, and for that, if you see right here in the line notes, we have E, G, B, D, F, and the space we have F, A, C, E. Now there is a phrase that you can learn, and I'm sure you know that by now, there is a phrase that we can memorize and learn so that we can remember what the notes of the lines are. And that phrase is, every good boy does fine. If you go from the bottom up, you have E, G, B, D, and F, which are the same notes of the lines on treble clef. E, G, B, D, F, every good boy does fine. Remember that in music, we always count from the bottom up, never from the top to bottom, okay? Always from the bottom to top. E, G, B, D, F. And to remember the notes on the spaces, we simply remember the phrase the word face, okay? F-A-C-E. So lines again, every good boy does fine, and spaces is face, okay? We can continue. So then we have the bass clef. Now the bass clef is, I think, much more easier to draw than the treble clef. It looks, for some people, it looks like a sad face, but looking at it from the side. Okay, it can also look like a comma with two dots on the right. But whatever shape you can use to remember what the bass clef is, be sure to remember, okay? It doesn't matter what shape you use, as long as you remember it correctly. And then the bass clef on the staff is gonna be simply drawn like this. You begin with a dot on the fourth line of the staff, always on the fourth line. Then from there you go up, round, and then go down with a tail, okay? And the two dots are gonna be on the third and fourth space of the staff, always, okay? Always on the third and fourth space on the staff. Never on any other line or space, but only the third and fourth space of the staff, okay? Moving on. So if you remember in the treble clef has specific notes. The bass clef has other notes. So any note on the line or on the space, its name will depend on the clef that we are using, okay? The notes on the treble clef are not gonna be the same notes that on the bass clef, okay? So be sure to remember. If I'm asking you in an exam or a lesson or a quiz to tell me the name of a note, the first thing you have to do is look at the clef, because that is going to be crucial and extremely important for you to recognize what note I'm asking you to recognize. So in the bass clef, we begin the first line with the note G. Okay, so we have G on the first line, A on the first space, B on the second line, C on the second space, D on the third line, E on the third space, F on the fourth line, G on the fourth space, and finally A on the fifth line. One thing you can use to remember what the notes are is simply this. Remember that when you draw the bass clef, you begin on the fourth line, okay? The bass clef in Spanish is called clave de fa. So fa, if you remember, is F. So if the clave de fa or bass clef begins on the fourth line, then the fourth line is going to be F, fa, okay? Again, we're going to follow the order of the letters in the alphabet. So if the first line is G, and G is the last letter of the alphabet, in the musical alphabet, then the next note is going to be, of course, an A, okay? And from A, we go the same order of the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then back to A. As we did with the treble clef, we can also divide them by lines and spaces. So we have that the lines in the bass clef are G, B, D, F, and A, and the space notes are going to be A, C, E, and G. As we did with the treble clef, there are phrases that we can memorize to recognize what the names of the notes are in the lines and in the spaces. If we are trying to remember the names of the lines, we can use the following phrase. Good boys do fine always. Counting from bottom to top, we go G, B, D, F, A. Good boys do fine always are the same notes here on the lines, G, B, D, F, A. good boys do fine always. And the space notes, there's another phrase that it could be all cows eat grass. A, C, E, and G. So we go to the staff and we have A, C, E, G. All cows eat grass. Okay, so be sure to know right now two things. First, if I'm asking you to recognize a note on the staff, you have to first check what clef you're having. Once you know what the clef is, then you should know what the phrases are. That's the second step. If you know all the three phrases, no, four phrases in this case, you will know exactly what the names of the notes are. So for treble clef is every good boy does fine, face, and for bass clef is good boys do fine always, and all cows eat grass. If you know those two things, you won't have any problem at all with the notes on the staff, okay? Moving on. So another thing you can do to recognize what the notes are on the staff is simply this. So if you check, we have here in this slide, we have the line notes and the space notes on treble clef on the top of the slide. And then in the bottom of the slide, we have the lines notes and the space notes of the bass clef. Now check this out. Look at these red arrows that I drew right here. If you look at the first one, it says we begin this arrow in the G on the second line of the staff. If we follow that arrow all the way down to the bass clef, to the staff with bass clef, we know that the G is on the first line. So it moves from the second line to the first line. The same thing happens with the B. It goes from the third line to the second line. And the same thing goes from D. It goes from the fourth line to the third line. And the F goes from the fifth line to the fourth line. So simply, if you don't remember, for example, I'm asking you a question about a note on the bass clef staff, but you can't remember what the phrase was. You can't remember that every good boys do fine always. In that case, if you remember the phrase for treble clef, which is every good boy does fine, then you will know that, for example, the third note, the third line is B. If you remember this graphic with the arrows, then you will know that if the B is on the third line in treble clef, then it means it's going to be on the second line in the bass clef. So all of them move down a line. And the same thing happens with the spaces. If you check here, you see these arrows. The A in the treble clef is on the second space, but when it goes down to the bass clef, it's on the first space. So it moves one space down, okay? So that's another way to recognize where the notes are. So maybe you don't remember exactly the phrases of the bass clef, it doesn't matter. But if you know the phrases of the treble clef, you can simply know the notes on the bass clef by moving them down a line or down a space, okay? I hope that's clear. If you have any questions about this, please make those questions in the forum, discussion forum that I posted in Schoology on the top of your page, okay? Now, sharps and flats. Now this is gonna be very easy, okay? How do we put sharps and flats on the staff? So for example, if you see the first picture right here, the first note we have here is an A in treble clef, right? Because face, F-A, A is the second space. If we want to make this A sharp, the sharp is this sign right here, we put the sharp on the left of the note, always on the left of the note. But when we are writing the letters, when we are writing the letters, then the sharp sign will always be on the right. So be careful about remembering this because it's very important, and a lot of people, even in other like grades, like 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th grade, they still make that mistake. So be sure to know this very carefully. Okay, when you're writing the note on the staff, the sharp sign will go on the left. but when you're writing the letter, the sharp sign will go on the right. The same thing will happen with the flat sign, okay? For example, here we have on the second picture, we have a D note. Why D? Because we're in bass clef. And what was the phrase in the bass clef? Good boys do fine always. Do, so D is gonna be the third line. Same thing as in the sharp. The flat sign, which is this little like, it's like a small B, goes on the left of the note on the staff. But when we are writing the letters, then the flat symbol will go on the right of the note, okay? Again, the sharp or flat symbol goes on the left of the note on the staff, but it goes on the right of the letter, okay? So now you're going to do, it's a task, okay? So that means you're gonna have, if you didn't do the task for last week, you're going to do both tasks today, okay? If you already did your task for last week, then you only have to do this one right here today. And as with all tasks, you will have up until 9 p.m. to do it, okay? I will put this information of the task in your Schoology page, okay? So you can submit your task there. So what is the task going to be? First, on one piece of paper, draw slide number 5 of this PowerPoint presentation. The next one is on another piece of paper, draw slide number 7 of this PowerPoint presentation. So what was slide number 5? Let me go back. This is slide number 5. So you're going to draw this on a piece of paper, okay? And then once you finish drawing all this slide in that piece of paper, you are going to draw slide number 7, which is this one right here, okay? So on a different piece of paper, you're going to draw this slide, okay? All the stuff, all the notes, everything, exactly like you see it right here, okay? With the phrases, okay? Now, let me go back to the task. Okay, after you draw these 2 slides on 2 different pieces of paper, you're going to take a picture of each paper and upload both pictures to Schoology, okay? Be careful to take a good picture, or if you have a scanner, even better, okay? Take a good picture so I can read and understand everything that is going on in your paper. Also, and very important, okay, use a ruler to draw the staff, and please be neat with your task. I will consider presentation when grading it, okay? So be sure if you want to use more than one color, even better. It's not mandatory, but as long as everything is well put, organized, well presented, very nice to look at, good. One thing that I will not allow is for you to draw the staff with no ruler, okay? Because then you're gonna have like very like messy staffs, messy lines, so that's not gonna look very nice, okay? Finally, on each piece of paper, you're gonna write your name and your grade, okay? Whether you are 6th grade Hawking or 6th grade Higgs or Franklin, okay? Write your name with your grade, okay? That will be it for this video. I hope you understood everything. Again, if you have any questions, please write all those questions in the discussion forum that is going to be in your Schoology page. And you have until today to finish this task. It's not a very difficult task. The thing that will take more time, I think, is we're going to do it like very neatly, you know, drawing the lines of the staff and everything, okay? Do it exactly as it is on this PowerPoint presentation, okay? Exactly, because I will check everything and I will look for every mistake there is. So be sure to do it. You know me already. There's only one new student in 6th grade that doesn't know how I grade, but you know me from 2 years before, so you know that I'm going to pick on every mistake that I can find, okay? So be very careful with that. Again, any questions, go to Schoology and write them. and I will see you later this week for our first live session. Okay, bye-bye.